Okay, so we're going to start and do that first problem on your review for your test. That is tomorrow, Tuesday, November 8th. We're going to solve by factoring the first way. So here's our function, and we're going to factor it. I'm going to draw our box. X squared goes here, 10x goes here, and it's a negative 10x, and then 24 goes here. So what multiplies to x squared is x times x. Now it multiplies to 24. You could have 6 and 4, 8 and 3, 2 and 12. I know how to factor, so I'm going to put 6 and 4. So 4 times x is 4x, and x times 6 is 6x. This is a positive, so I know I'm adding 4 and 6 to get 10. But I don't just want 10, I want negative 10. So that means the 4 and the 6 both need to be negative. That would also give me this 4 and this 6 being negative, because negative 4 times negative 6 does give me that positive 24 here. So then my factors are x minus 6 times x minus 4. And when you're solving, you're going to have it equal to 0 because you're finding the x-intercepts, and that's where y is 0. And f of x is the same as y. Now to determine what x needs to be to equal 0, you can just separate your factors and set them equal to 0, because either this needs to be 0 or this needs to be 0, or they both need to be 0, according to the zero product property, in order for you to get 0. So you add 6 to both sides, and you get x equals 6. Here you add the 4, and you get x equals 4. So your solutions to this are x equals 6 and 4. Okay, the next way we're going to solve this is by graphing it. So we have to take this function and we need to write it in vertex form. So that's when we complete the square. So this is my x squared. Okay, and remember I have negative 10 x's. So that means I would need, oh, they're negative, so we want to make them different. So negative 1, oh goodness, this is not working. 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 5 on this side as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so this is, the length of the side is x, and then since it's negative, minus 5. So my new function will be f of x equals, my a value is 1, so I don't need an a value in front. It's just like that imaginary 1 here. X minus 5, the length of the side squared, because that's the area of the whole thing. Now here I would need 25 squares. Okay, so I'm short 25 squares. I have 24. I need 25. so I'm only short 1. Okay, so here's vertex form. Now you see my vertex, which would be 5 and negative 1. So I'm going to go where x is 5, which is right here, and y is negative 1, which is right here. Then I can use my a value to graph that. So the first step in my pattern rate of change is a over 1, and then 3a over 1. And since a is 1, I can just do 1 over 1 and then 3 over 1. So here I'm going to go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, then up 1, 2, 3 and over 1, up 1, 2, 3 and over 1. And then I can do a 6 and over 1. I don't know if I have 6 left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, not 6. It'd be 5a over 1, so 5 over 1. So up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and over 1. Up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and over 1. So here is my parabola. So when I graph it, what I'm looking for is where it crosses the x-axis, which is right here and right here. So there you can see that x equals 4 and 6, which again is what we found over here, and we should always have the same answers. Okay. So now we're going to solve by completing the square. Okay, we kind of already did that. We completed the square all right here, so I'm just going to take that. Information. We completed the square already in the first one, and we got f of x equals x minus 5, the whole thing squared, minus 1. Okay. Now to solve by completing the square, we need to set it equal to 0. So instead of f of x, we're going to have 0 equals x minus 5, the whole thing squared, minus 1. And then we just solve. So I'm going to isolate the x squared. I'm going to add 1 to both sides to get the x minus 5 squared by itself. So it'll be 1 equals x minus 5, whole thing squared. Now to get rid of the squared, we have to square root both sides. Okay. This will give me the square root of 1 is 1, and then also negative 1. Because I don't know if negative 1 times negative 1 gave me that positive 1, or just 1 times 1 gave me that positive 1. And the square root of x minus 5, remember the squared and the square root just go away. And so I get left with x minus 5. Now I need to get this x by itself, so we should add 5 to both sides. Sorry, that's a plus 5. So that's going to give me that x equals 1 plus 5 is 6, and negative 1 and 5 is 4. That's how you solve by completing the square, and then this was square rooting it. Okay, next one, solve using the quadratic formula. So again, I'm going to write my function of f of x equals x squared minus 10x plus 24. Then I have to identify my a, b, and c. So a here is the number in front of the x squared, so that's 1. B is the number in front of x, so that's negative 10. And then c is the constant, or just the number by itself. Then we use our quadratic formula, and I will sing it once again. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now you can plug all this in to this and then simplify. So we're going to get x equals, when I have a negative and I plug a negative into it, it becomes positive 10. And then I get plus or minus the square root of negative 10 squared minus 4 times 1 times 24. And it's all over 2 times 1. Now it's just going to get simplified. I'm going to get x equals 10 plus or minus the square root. Negative 10 times negative 10 is a positive 100. And then negative 4 times 24 is 16, 8, 96. And it stays negative because it's a negative times a positive, so negative 96. And it's all over 2 times 1. So then I'm going to get x equals 10 plus or minus the square root of 4 all over 2. I know the square root of 4, so I'm going to simplify that. I'm going to get 10 plus the square root of 4 is 2 all over 2. But I also have 10 minus the square root of 4, so 10, let's see, 10 minus 2 all over 2. When I simplify that, 10 plus 2 is 12. So I'm going to get, I'll put x equals 12 over 2. And 10 minus 2 is 8 over 2. Then I can just simplify those and get x equals 12 divided by 2 is 6. And 8 divided by 2 is 4. So those are all the different ways you can solve a quadratic equation. Now the last thing they want us to talk about is, in your opinion, what was the easiest way to solve the quadratic equation, and explain. So that can be different for each of you, but I would hope that you could see that factoring it is kind of the easiest. If you can't factor, obviously, then maybe another way would be easier for you. Or if you like to graph it or to square root it, then you could do that. But for me, I like to solve this by factoring. We're going to explain it. And I'm going to say it's the easiest way to factor this because it requires the least amount of steps. I can also say I am good at factoring. Okay, that's another reason why it might be easiest for you to say that. But anyways, that's how you should be answering this. Explain to me what you would do on a test and why you would do it. Again, if you have any questions, well, remember your test is tomorrow, so get this done. And if you have any questions, feel free to text me through Remind. Have a wonderful evening.